I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, that brings us to item number 3 on the agenda, which is the approval of tonight's agenda. There's no discussion or questions. I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Can we move up the,
Oh, so we'll do that now if you want to. This would be the time to do it.
okay, and where do we want to put it?
Probably number 1 is in business.
Yeah.
One for new business. Yes, I would like to request that we move it up, which is now new business item 4, temporary moratorium ordinance, and move that up to number 1 of new business.
I'll support. We have a motion and support. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, that brings us to item number 4, which is public comment. We remind you that this is time for you to express your thoughts and concerns to the board, not a question and answer session. People that are speaking for themselves have a 3-minute time limit, and if you're speaking for a group, it's 5 minutes. There will also be a chance again at the end of the meeting for public comment. Same rules apply during the meeting when the trustees are doing township business and deliberating is not a time for public engagement. So is there anybody in the second row that would like to speak? No? Okay, third row?
Good.
I can't even see what rows. Just come up and speak if you'd like to, and we'll all have a turn.
Take advantage of this opportunity here.
Hey, good. State your name and thank you.
Joe Malakis, 2887 Lake Shore Drive, Saugatuck Township. Here's primarily speaking on the moratorium issue and an Open Meetings Act concern. First, I want to thank you for tabling the moratorium last month, because obviously that wasn't given full consideration before you got it. And hopefully I read a letter that Daniel prepared with some amended language with regard to exceptions. And those seem fine and cover the concerns we had. To Lakeshore Association request for an exception with regard to structures. I don't know what Lakeshore Association that was. There's 2 of them. I spoke with our president, Bill Leffley, and it wasn't the Douglas Lakeshore Association.
It was the one south from.
Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
just that clarification. Okay, now let's get to the Opens Meeting Act. November 19th, Planning Commission meeting addressed this issue, talked about it. The meeting concluded. Public was escorted outside, door was locked. And some of us that were in the meeting continued to talk outside the doors about the issues that, we had talked about. And it got into about 20 minutes. And during that time, 5 planning commission members and the zoning administrator sat in this room with the doors locked and continued to have discussion. I believe it's a obvious flagrant violation of the Open Meetings Act. And even if there wasn't an Open Meetings Act, why are one of our boards sitting around talking in private about anything doing with the township? It's just unbelievable. My experience when I started on the planning commission in 92 or 93, and I did that because I had attended some meetings, planning commission meetings. And it seemed odd to me, the planning commission was coming to conclusions without much discussion. And I go, what the heck, how are they? And then I went to my first planning commission meeting. And it turned out 4 planning commission members were meeting in the kitchen or the back room, talking about the agenda. Well, how do you feel about that? Well, I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you think? And I'm sitting there going, I can't believe it. And so I said, wait a minute, we got to hold this discussion until we get into the public meeting. So that's been something pretty close to me, and I've gone through that experience. And I'm concerned that it's happening here in Saugatuck Township, given my experience on the planning commission. The other issue in background that I'd like to say is, I've been a little concerned about the progress of the planning commission in some areas. As you know, there was a rezoning effort in the R3, R4 district that we were involved in at that time. I came to every planning commission meeting that was held during that time period when the planning commission discussed rezoning that new ordinance. Okay. And I provided a couple separate emails with several points that I wanted them to reconsider in their rezoning of R4, in other words, increasing the required minimum lot size. And it wasn't being discussed. And so then I even sent a memo and said, is this being discussed somewhere else? Because they weren't talking about it. And it wasn't until the last meeting of the planning commission, considering the ordinance, that it was brought up, the R4 change in zoning was actually brought up. And there was some discussion and there was concern about what would be the impact of this change. But my issues that I raised earlier weren't talked about. So, you know, I'm scratching my head wondering, were there other discussions and meetings, workshops of the planning commission that we were not aware of? After this experience, I'm starting to wonder maybe there was. And that concerns me. So I hope that the board takes appropriate action, because that will, you know, you came on board here to be transparent and open to this community from the prior board. And this deflates that effort significantly. And you had a zoning administrator and a township board member at the meeting. So it wasn't like they don't know about the Opens Meetings Act. So I wonder again why. But that's my comment, and I hope you can deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malakis.
Andrew Malakis, 2895 Lakeshore Drive. I was here at the last meeting, glad that, you know, you tabled it and got some input from the planning commission. I do support the way it's drafted now, but I was at the planning commission meeting, and so I just wanted to share what I thought was quite clear. It was quite clear that there was unanimous support for excluding steps. All of the commissioners agreed, no one spoke against it. And there was only an issue with Commissioner Webster didn't want to support something that she couldn't see in writing. And so to say in the minutes and in the memo that the planning commissioners did not reach consensus on whether to exclude permit application for new steps is just completely false. I watched the video again today. It is clear that Commissioner Webster, along with everyone else, wanted to exclude steps, but there was no mechanism to draft language for Commissioner Webster to support. And it was just an odd exchange. And I would say that what I saw in that exchange was a frustrated commissioner who was really concerned about what she was supporting, and perhaps her views have been misrepresented before. But it's, how do you then send something to the planning commission for input, but you're not getting input back? They couldn't vote on anything. They couldn't come to a consensus, but they all did agree. So there's just some communication breakdown there, or process breakdown. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak at public comment? Again, we'll have a chance at the end of the meeting, so. Oh. No, I'm here. Okay, just saying hi. Is there anybody joining us online?
Does anyone on Zoom wish to speak? Please raise your hand. Guess not.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Can I take out my last 30 seconds?
You actually went over, you can have Andrew's, that was,
Okay, all right, thank you, very
Sure.
generous of you.
if you can,
The other point I want to make about the Open Meetings Act is, we don't know what was discussed. I mean, we've heard some people say there were no deliberations, but there was discussion. And so where are the minutes? How do we know they talked about the moratorium, about the future proposed lakeshore overlay? They certainly didn't talk about the township Christmas party. So how do we know what was discussed? That's the issue, and that's why the public should be involved. And I think your moratorium that includes new steps is necessary, because sometimes you can't put steps in the same place, and that would be a minimal infringement upon the law and erosion. Thank you.
all right. Go ahead and close public comment portion of tonight's meeting and move on to consent agenda. And we were able to put some of a number of perfunctory operation related items on the consent agenda. I trust that all of you have had a chance to review all of those. Is there anything we'd like to remove? Any trustees would like to remove from that agenda to discuss further?
Just have a question, rather than remove it, I caught like 3 typos, can I just share them with the secretary, or do you want me to do it?
On the minutes?
Yeah.
Just typos, not content.
Yeah, typos, and then one of the resolutions the year as well,
Okay.
it's nothing substantive this time. So if that works, then we don't have to remove it.
I'm fine with that. Is everybody fine with that? It's not content, it's just.
All marked. Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
And. All right, anything else that we need to discuss further on the consent agenda? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion and support. For the discussion. None, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. We do not have any presentations this evening, so that brings us to item number 7, policy. And as we all know, former clerk Israels has decided to use her time and talents in other places, and we sure hope that she shows up at the township and continues to serve here, and we very much value her time. We're also very pleased to have a highly qualified candidate to come on and be clerk, somebody that's been very familiar with that role and other roles in the township. I think that we have a very nice proclamation prepared, and trustee Markey has agreed to read that. So whenever you're ready, just to kind of acknowledge and honor all the good work that Clerk Israels did here at the township. First class.
It's my honor to read this proclamation. We do what I told her for her service as Saugatuck Township Clerk. Whereas Rebecca Israels has served Saugatuck Township with dedication and excellence as Township Clerk, and whereas she ensured fair and transparent elections, earning public trust and mentoring a reliable team of election inspector. And whereas she oversaw the implementation of significant state mandated changes to elections with integrity and thoroughness, ensuring a smooth transition and compliance. Whereas she contributed significantly to a comprehensive update of the township's zoning interest ordinance, serving as a member of the zoning ordinance update committee. And whereas she played a key role in the 2023 renovation of the township hall that included improvements to accessibility and the modernization of office spaces. And whereas she strengthened relationships with municipal neighbors, working with the city of Saugatuck to share early voting responsibilities, encouraging collaboration and efficiency. And Whereas her commitment and integrity have made a lasting impact on the community. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Board of Trustees of Saugatuck Township, extend our deepest gratitude for Rebecca Israels for her exceptional contributions to our community.
So now would be the time if we have that, which. If anyone would like to add to that or say a few words about Clerk Israel's. Go ahead. Clerk Osmond.
I thank you, Ms. Bigford. I am the clerk that's been elected to replace Becky Israels. My name is Cindy Osmond, and I have served on the board in the past. I have served as building official and deputy zoning administrator in the past. And I would like to thank Becky personally for all the work that she put into the clerk's duties in implementing all the changes that were recently made to the voting laws of the state, not only to the Saugatuck Township, but to the entire state. When even the direction that she was getting from the state was sometimes confusing. She did a great job. She's leaving me with a lot of information and a lot of organization that she put together. I feel really good about the transition. So if anybody has any questions about the clerk duties or what the clerk's duties are, I would express gratitude to Ms. Israels for getting that completed and documenting all the history so I can have a good place to start. Thank you, Becky.
Oh. And we have some lovely gifts and we will make sure they get to Ms. Israel's and we look forward to seeing her. Okay. That brings us to a discussion item, which is short-term rentals. We know that this is there a memo for this?
No, there's not really a memo with, the reason why this is included is well, we did receive and the residents here, sorry to point you out, Edie, but we had a resident come in with a few other residents in support asking that the township review ordinances related to short-term rentals. There is some regulation with short-term rentals in the community. We do require certification every 3 years, which involves a fire inspection. We do collect a fee that allows us to pay for that fire inspection and then also keep track of that certification and follow up with any necessary code enforcement. But there's definitely room for conversation. So this is to put it to the board to have not a completely thorough conversation where you come up with specific recommendations, but to initiate a conversation to see where or have an idea of where short-term rentals fall in terms of priority. Not to throw in my 2 cents too soon, but what I would recommend, because most of this year has been planned already with our budget and funds allocated, that this is something that we revisit when we get to strategic planning in late winter. And then we can plan and allocate specific funds to looking at this issue and really understanding what are the township's concerns and how best to address them.
John?
I agree with what I just heard. The only area, one area I would like to point out that I think we need to focus on more, and I'm sure we will, is, code enforcement. We've taken steps in that direction. We have a great new person on staff that's doing more that way than we've been able to do before. So I think that would be part of the strategic discussion. That might be a part-time person to help us enforce things more that are there. And, I think we'll review everything. Should the permit be for 3 years? Is the permit rate appropriate? Things like that. I welcome that discussion. I think it's an important one to have.
Totally agree, and I feel that the citizens, this is a concern of theirs because of, it's right next door, so. I'd rather be proactive than reactive, so I agree with your assessment.
I think we wanted to put this on tonight's agenda just to show that, that letter and that communication was well thought out, and I think that you represent a lot of, the constituents. So we just wanted to formally talk about it at tonight's meeting, and demonstrate that we're not doing something about it right at this second, but very soon, and we too see it as something that's important, and we need to take a very deliberate look at it, and so thank you for bringing it to our attention, and we will certainly address it at in our strategic planning session. Anything else on this? Okay. There is no old business, so we're gonna jump right to with our amended order here, the temporary moratorium ordinance number 2024-03. And that is on,
17.
thank you. Okay, Daniel, would you please pick off this subject?
Absolutely. So this is an item that we looked at last month and decided to table and send to planning commission for feedback, because we did get some feedback from residents. And I did spend a lot of time talking to residents over the last few weeks, which I think was a very positive thing because we got some insights. And we did make some amendments to the moratorium from what you saw last month, and those appear in a red line version in your packet. But to kind of summarize what those are, so these would be, so the moratorium, as is written, is a 6-month moratorium that would, that essentially would bar the acceptance of new building and zoning permits for properties that lie on the west side of Lakeshore Drive in the township, so from the Douglas border down to the border of Ganges. And right now, so it would apply to building and zoning permits, except for permits related to the construction, or should I say, repair or replacement of existing beach stairs. New beach stair applications, as long as they satisfy a 15-foot setback requirement from the side yard, and they do not involve earth moving, tree removal, or the installation of impervious surfaces other than the stairs themselves. It also would not, or would exclude from the moratorium, interior work, and it would also exclude demolition of exterior structures. In my conversations with different residents and representatives, it did come out that a possible addition to the moratorium that you might consider would be to exempt single-family homes for properties that are pending sale or sold within the last 2 months, as long as they meet 150-foot setback. There were concerns raised by our attorney and our zoning administrator. A lot of the concerns related to implementation. How do you make that clean break? How do you define pending? Another option which came up in the planning commission meeting was that planning commission by no means wants to draw out this process. It's not to punish anyone, it's to address certain construction methods that we're seeing along the lakeshore quickly and allow for residents to continue to work on their projects and develop their property. So another item that you might want to consider is to reduce the time of the moratorium from a 6-month moratorium to a 4-month moratorium. But I will entertain any questions if you.
I understand that the planning commission believes that they could accomplish that in a shorter amount of time.
That's my understanding. So from reviewing the meeting and speaking with the zoning administrator, they do believe that they could complete it in a shorter period of time than 6 months. John, you were at the.
Yeah, well, I was at that meeting and I talked with the planning person, excuse me, yesterday. And the process of drafting a new ordinance is quite a away. And it could be brought to the board within a month or maybe two. I mean, I would support the shorter 4 month. It's gonna ease, because I think that answers, the suggestion about exempting pending sales, again. I've had conversations with concerned citizens too, how do you define pending? They use the term, just for repetition, offer, anyway, I think any exemption like that sort of negates the purpose of the moratorium. But I think making it shorter alleviates that issue. Because some of the, the only, for example, the quote pending sale that I've been made aware of. It's not even pending yet, there's just been discussions. And it's gonna take time, and I think 4 months accommodates that.
So it'd be around April, this would be.
So it would, yeah, with 4 months,
It would be nice for people if they wanted to do vacations or they before the summer and, I think it would be nice to get it done quickly.
Cindy, you-
I guess making it 4 months hard stop. It's a little bit against what I would consider appropriate. I think I would make it 6 months or until it's rescinded by the board.
and that's the way it's written currently.
Yeah, I would like to see it that way rather than just automatically cut 2 months off the time period. But that's just my opinion. I've worked with these things before. And quite often, there's a lot of discussion that has to go on. There's not necessarily disagreements, but different facets that you might want to consider that you didn't consider before that might take a little bit longer. But if you do the 6 months until rescinded by the board, that's really appropriate to do that. If we get it done, great. If we need a little bit more time, a couple more weeks or 3 more weeks or 5 more weeks, that still allows us to do that. Well, that's my comment.
Is the 4 months set in stone?
It's not set in stone, so the board could always
Extended?
vote to extend the moratorium.
Which we did on the 12 month.
We did on the 6 month moratorium for the zoning ordinance update, we extended it for another 6 months. I don't think we used the entire 12 months, I think we ended up being more like 10 months. But we did extend it at that time, yeah.
It's nice to have, like, if they're expressing they think they can, I hear what Cindy's saying, but if they believe that they can accomplish it in 4 months, it's nice to have that deadline. Knowing that, if there was something that was serious, we could extend it, that needed more thought and attention. Both ways have their benefits. Any other questions about the moratorium or comments? Well, I would entertain a motion.
If I make a motion. Do I add something about changing 6 to 4? As part of this? Okay. I move to adopt ordinance number 2024-03. An ordinance to impose a temporary moratorium on the acceptance of new building and zoning applications. For properties located on the shoreline of Lake Michigan. To include the change of 4 months. Timing instead of 6.
I'll support.
We have a motion by Marcy, support by Homer. Discussion. I'd just like to thank Manager DeFranco for his work on this. This has been tough, and I think that it's hard to please everybody, but you get pretty darn close with how hard you work on things, and we see that, and I appreciate it. This roll call
This is all.
Marcy,
Yes.
Homer,
Yes.
Bickford, yes, Osmond,
Yes.
Aldrich.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, much, Carol. Now we gotta go with that, right?
To 112.
And this is, um, subject is the board liaison to planning commission. When the trustees are, or elected, they're. I'll just read it. With the beginning of the new term for all elected trustees, a board liaison to the planning commission must be appointed. Board appointed liaison to the planning commission serves a 4-year term. Treasurer John Helmer currently serves in this role. Appointment and nomination is made by the township supervisor. And I am so grateful for your work and dedication on the planning commission. I know that you took it seriously, so much investment. But I have learned that Treasurer Helmer is not interested in being considered for reappointment at this time and instead is going to use his experience and talent in other areas of the township. So we look forward to seeing where you might pop up, whether it's housing or Blue Star Corridor
Or both.
And we are pleased that Clerk Osmond, who has extensive history in planning and zoning, has expressed interest in being the board liaison to the planning commission. So with that, I would like to appoint Clerk Osmond as the board liaison to the planning commission.
So we need a motion for that.
So then it's really should say move to accept the appointment,
Okay.
right?
Well, I'd like to move to accept the appointment of Cindy Osmond as board liaison to the Saugatuck Township Planning Commission.
And I'll support.
We have a motion and support. Is this roll call? Oh,
I would do roll call.
okay.
For the planning commission appointment, it's always roll call.
Homer,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Aldrich.
Yes.
Osmond. Staying. Meant to.
Okay, yes.
Bickford, yes. Bickford, yes. Okay. Congratulations, you both.
Thank you for your confidence and I appreciate it.
Okay. Let's look. What is next? Lead on to the road commission. And again, we have to do the same thing with this role. Although I do not make the appointment, anybody can. And Brenda Marcy has been serving this role for a while now. And I understand is willing to continue.
Yes.
And we thank you for that. It's not always the most glamorous job or the most, but
It's important.
it's important, it's what people really care about, so. There's no discussion, I would entertain a motion on this.
I move to appoint Brenda Marcy as board liaison to the Allegheny County Road Commission.
Support. We have a motion by Aldrich, support by Osmond, and I will just call the roll because.
You can do a voice if you want to.
Oh, sure.
It's only the planning commission.
Oh, right, all right.
It's a weird one.
All right, is there further discussion? None, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Right, great. So. Blue Star Highway sidewalk. Right here on 114. So we talked about this numerous times, but here we have before us a lot more information that will hopefully answer any questions that we've had in the past. And Daniel, I'd love for you to lead us in this discussion.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go through everything, but it is a proposal to install a sidewalk from Old Allen, along Blue Star Highway on the east side, from Old Allegan to 134th Avenue or North Street. This would coincide with the establishment of the Blue Star Drain by the county drain office, which is a pretty big construction project. They are going to, right now there's a roadside ditch, but it's not been an active drain that's been maintained by any entity since the 1970s. That came to our attention through a development project, and we did petition the drain office to establish that drain district. So one of the things that we're asking them to include, which is included in this estimate, is to cover the drains. So we don't have large open ditches on the east side of the road where we seem to have the largest concentration of commercial and residential development. So it would definitely improve the appearance of it. And at the same time, we could include a sidewalk in that design. You can see the sidewalk prices over here, so like the 5-foot concrete sidewalk for 4,100 feet is coming in at $164,000. There is a section that's going to require a boardwalk. You want to avoid a boardwalk whenever you can, but we can't here. There's a large creek, so that's coming in at 140. And then we have the retaining wall to do the boardwalk at that 101,750. So that's about $406,000 to do all of that work. It's a large section. But in doing it this way, we would be saving money. So for instance, like removals and restoration, that's a huge chunk of money. A lot of that is not gonna be, will not be avoidable when they put in the drain. That is to move utility poles if necessary, to restore the area, restore driveways. So we're going to be paying for that whether or not we do the sidewalk. This is where that savings comes in. Where if we were to have the drain project go in without the sidewalk, that cost would still come to us. And if we wanted to put a sidewalk in later down the road, we'd have to pay for that all over again. We'd also have to disturb the businesses. There's gonna be a period of time for the drain project regardless, where driveways for a few hours are not gonna be accessible. We always try to plan for these things to be out of the height of summer season. So right now, we're looking at a fall date for this, that could change to a spring. But we always try to plan it so it's not coinciding with that tourist season, but it will be a disruption. So if we were to wait on the sidewalk, it would mean disrupting those businesses at a later point in time. Whereas this could be all done at the same time and we'd only see that one disruption. There's something else I wanted to point out about this.
Do you anticipate full road closures at all, or no?
That's still a conversation. We're looking for every opportunity to do some sort of like one lane open. It's a conversation that you have when you hire the contractor, because everything comes at a cost. Like they're able to do anything you want, but you have to pay for it. So when we get into those conversations, we do wanna see if we can at least keep one lane of traffic moving along Blue Star so we don't see a full road closure. It's not gonna be as extensive as the roundabout construction, but there is going to be construction along Blue Star.
Estimated length of the project?
4,100 feet for the sidewalk.
No, I mean.
Oh,
the
the
time.
time, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the other thing I wanted to point out was that we actually have. This project's coming at a good time because we were able to get a lot of information from the public because it coincided with the completion of the work on that Blue Star Highway Corridor Safety Plan, which we did a survey. We got great results. I think we had over 700 responses to that. And then we had an in-person session. We had 2 in-person sessions for that plan, and we also did a survey and a open house for the non-motorized master plan. And the benefit from both of those activities was that we saw that that residents wanted to see non-motorized infrastructure along Blue Star Highway. That's what came out of the study, the safety plan. And then when we got to the non-motorized master planning, we found that residents not only wanted that infrastructure, they prioritized that infrastructure over infrastructure in other areas of the township. So it's nice to know that going into that project. I think we know, you know, offhand that you see that there are a lot of businesses, especially in that section of Blue Star Highway, that would benefit from a sidewalk and benefit from the installation of crosswalks, which is included in this estimate. But then we also got the feedback from the public quite a bit that they wanna see non-motorized infrastructure and they prioritize non-motorized infrastructure in this strip of the Blue Star corridor. And this is kind of the end of the road for this, so the drain office wants to know because they would include it in their engineering.
I for one would just like to say I'm really glad they're being closed up. As someone who's fallen into one, I don't know, that was busier than Blue Star, it hurts, but it was also quite embarrassing. So, but and it is, you know, it can happen to anyone. My shoelace got caught in my bike wheel. I don't wear shoes anymore, but it's a really good idea, even if you were gonna have kids walking down there and, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And there was some concern, last time we talked about this as a board about budgetary, you know, concerns and what fund it was gonna come from and what other big projects might influence it. And can you talk a little bit about that, because it's really good timing?
It is good timing, and we did look into that, there is at least one larger road project that we have at some point in time, and that would be the reconstruction and widening of 63rd Street from Riverside Road to M89, so this is south of the river. It isn't in desperate need of reconstruction, so it's something that we could hold off on, and that project would be probably a little over $1 million right now. It's very straightforward, but it is something that's flexible. And we are bringing in a little under $1 million in the road fund every year. Our roads are in really good condition, we're proud of that, we stay up on maintenance, which saves us money in the long run. But there isn't a huge project that's coming up that would compete with this funding.
I recently drove that road and really, you know, took inventory, and it does not seem to be in rough shape at all. I mean, I'm sure that there are things that I can't see with my eyes, you know, but the road seems to be in pretty good condition. Seems possible to put that off for a year or two. Anything else? Any other questions or comments on?
Well, we're quite certain that the bulk of this work and expense probably will be in fiscal year 26. Or it could be
25, it could be in 26, but right now it's planned for 20.
Oh.
No, yeah, 25,
Yeah, but it's gonna cross over.
correct, yeah, yeah,
So the bulk could be in fiscal 26.
it could be.
And that just makes it more realistic, more attainable.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, please.
I move to approve the inclusion of the construction of a sidewalk on the east side of Blue Star Highway between Old Malaga Road and 134th Avenue. In the scope of construction for the Blue Star Drain Project, and direct township manager to request next steps from the county drain office.
We have a motion, is there support? Support. Further discussion? None? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Right. Brings us to item number 5, resolution 2024-32, adopt Blue Star corridor safety plan. That's on page 123. For your packet. Daniel, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, so this is a great project for us. So this is the official adoption by the township board of the Blue Star Highway Corridor Safety Plan. And a year ago, we were all in this room and you all voted in favor to embark on this project. So this is a whole year's worth of work. But it was overseen by a safe roads subcommittee, which was really a regional effort. So we had members of the planning commission, the township board. We had Craig Atwood of the road commission sit on that. Chris Mantles is a fire district. So it was great representation. We got to build a lot of, we got to strengthen our relationship with key entities that we have to work with on Blue Star. And we really began to flesh out a vision for the future. Also already led some of the recommendations was, they provided recommendations for specific grant programs that we should be applying for. We've already applied for the Safe Streets for All program to complete a Safe Streets action plan, and we were awarded that grant money. So we're awarded $140,000 to complete that project. And then once we complete that project, it opens up actual implementation construction funds for us for the future. So already really positive things have come out of this plan, but it's looked at the historic conditions of the Blue Star Highway. We were able to use a very cool program called Streetlights, which allowed us to look at all sorts of traffic data, the average speed of vehicles. Are people coming through our community? Are they stopping in their community? Where are they turning? How long does it take them to turn? We looked at the crash data. And from all of that, we took that information and we came up with specific goals and a vision for the Blue Star Highway. And then that last section is all about implementation, what we should be doing, what programs we should be applying for. This is definitely not a straightforward project, and we're not unique in the state or the country from as a township struggling with control of our roads. But we definitely are more on the front lines of it. There are not as many communities that are as proactive in engaging with their road commission, engaging with their state governments to see what can be done, and we're doing it. We have a goal of lowering the speed limit and redesigning the road to encourage people to go at slower speeds. And that takes a lot of work, but we've made a huge step forward with this plan. So very, very proud of our work. And Brenda Marcy was our road liaison and board member on that committee. And I think we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a really good experience.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
I'd like to move to adopt resolution 2024-32, a resolution adopting the Blue Star Highway Corridor Safety Plan.
I'll support.
We have a motion by Helmrich and support by Aldrich. There further discussion? Very exciting, all good stuff. Glad we have, I'm glad that this huge bulk of work happened and that we're being forward thinking and proactive. I couldn't be more pleased. All right, I will call the roll. Helmrich,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Bigford, yes. Osmond,
Yes.
Marcy.
Yes.
Carries 5-0. I'm not there yet, Daniel, but if you'd like to start talking about the MERS amendment and adoption of HCSP resolution 2024-33.
Yes.
You may.
Yeah, it is on 178.
Thank you.
Gotta get all the way to the Blue Star Corridor.
Yeah. So this has to do with the retirement benefits that are offered to employees. So the township used to have a pension program, a defined benefit program, which was at some point became deeply underfunded. I believe at its lowest, it was probably around 30% funded. So the township had to back out of that. And they instituted this new hybrid program where you would get some defined benefit and then you get some defined contribution. That defined contribution part from the township was just a 1% contribution of an employee's salary or compensation, I should say. And in order to get that, the employee had to match it. We are definitely. The other two, the city of Saugatuck and the city of Douglas definitely have more robust benefit packages. So we've discussed at strategic planning, the possibility of looking at this again, not going crazy, but to improve that retirement package for employees. So this is what this is doing. So the recommendation is to do nothing with the defined benefit portion of the benefits, which would be the more costly thing to adjust. And what it's recommending is that the township board increase its match from 1% for the defined. Oh no, we're not touching the defined benefit, we're touching the defined contribution. So to change that from a 1% contribution to an up to 3% contribution. And when I say up to 3, it does require the employee to match that in order to get it. So if the employee matches or wants to contribute 2%, the township board will only match 2%. So that's one change. With that, we did not have a vesting schedule. So this is proposing a rated vesting schedule. So every year of employment, the employee is vested 20% up until that 5th year, and then you're 100% vested. So right now, if an employee were to leave, and let's say they've only worked 1 year, they would get 100% of the contribution from the township. Introducing the vesting schedule says, well, if you leave before 5 years, you only get a certain percentage of what the township has contributed to your benefits. So I think that's definitely an improvement for the township. We're also introducing a healthcare savings program. We do have a healthcare savings plan, it's a little different. So this is like a retirement plan. You cannot take out money put in until 1, you retire, or 2, you're no longer employed at the township. And the way this is work, it's very minor contribution from the township, requires contribution from the employees too, but the township would contribute 0.5% of the employee's compensation per year. The employee has to match that. But another source of funding for that program would be that the employer would put in up to 40 hours of unused PTO time, would convert that and put that into the program for employees. Because right now, our PTO policy does not allow for any PTO to roll over. So it's a use it or lose it. So this would allow for an employee who does not use PTO to recoup some of that unused PTO, but then also avoid the situation of having employees accumulate significant amount of PTO that upon their retirement or upon their leaving the township, then the township would be responsible for compensating that employee. So it kind of, it's a win-win. It contributes to the retirement benefits, and then it also in a way that gives something back to an employee who doesn't use a lot of PTO, because we do have employees who don't use all their PTO. And then Peter wanted to make sure that I tell you that this is all tax-free. It's tax-free for the employer, it's tax-free for the employee, and when the employee retires or moves on and takes out money from that healthcare savings program, that is also tax-free. So those are the proposed updates. And then it kind of, there's all these forms that you would have to fill out, so that's kind of spelled out in the motion.
They're all in here.
Well, I think we have a great team, and it's important to take care of them and retain them, and it's also important to be in line and in step with what, other
local government are doing, so.
Well done, and any questions or comments for?
No, I just want to confirm the original defined.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. The defined benefit plan, we only have one employee on that still.
That's correct, and so
Will
this,
that change or will that?
no,
They stay
so,
on that?
yeah, we can't take that away from
This
them.
affects just the others.
Yes, so yeah, so the increase
Right.
for, yeah, the match to the 457 would only apply to the employees who are currently not on the pension program.
No, to the point, I mean, you brought it up and we've discussed this a lot, right from day one, increasing the funding. Which had dipped into the 30%, and now I think it's approaching 70%.
Or I think we're over 70%. Yeah.
We always find out a year late next year. So that's fantastic. And then another thing we inherited when this was all kind of new to us, there was an employee previously that never put in their match, but the township put theirs in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that was shocking. We had to talk to lawyers about that. But they didn't get to collect it in the end, but still, so how can you match something that's not even there? So these are great.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to authorize the amendment of an existing adoption agreement and contribution addendum for MERS defined contribution effective January 1st, 2025.
There's two separate motions, correct?
There is, you probably could combine
Oh.
them.
As well as to adopt resolution 2024-33, adopting the MERS healthcare savings plan and authorize the execution of the MERS healthcare savings program participation agreement and contribution addendum for MERS healthcare savings plan effective January 1, 2025.
A motion is for support.
I'll support that.
Motion by Elmer, support by Osman. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Elmer,
Yes.
Osman,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Bickford, yes. All right. Brings us to item number 7, under new business roundabout landscape notice of award. We'll be short and sweet. Daniel, go ahead and give us the information we need.
Yes, so we advertised this project, so the landscape project at the roundabout, we advertised it in the spring. We did not get great bids back. We decided to hold off and see how the roundabout functioned and revisit it at a later point. We did advertise the project again, we got 3 bids back. The lowest bid came in at 74,400 from Apex Contractors. That's kind of what we expected. There's some underground boring that's gonna be involved. There's the construction of a pretty substantial pedestal. And then there's gonna be some traffic control in the placement of the sculpture. So that's pretty much what we were anticipating for the cost. We are working with Viridis Design on this project, and they're going to be assisting with construction management. They've worked with this contractor, HX Contractors, before. They're actually working with them right now on Ottawa Sands, which is a Ottawa County Parks project. I think it's in Grand Haven. So they know this contractor, they're very happy that the contractor put in their bid, and that they were a low bid. And it is a low bid, so the other ones came in at essentially 118 and then 165, so Viridis was happy with the price that we got from Apex, and they're also happy with the quality of the work.
This plan as presented includes certain lighting, correct?
It does include lighting, that's the underground boring.
That's
Yeah.
the boring for.
So it will have lighting built into the pedestal, illuminating the sculpture.
Great.
I'm sorry, you probably said this, but when will it begin?
They think that they can start in March, like early March, and they think,
Oh, wow.
and it was, yeah, we had a meeting with Apex and the road commission at Viridis. Road commission felt like it was a very straightforward project, if, with the caveat, if you know what you're doing. Apex knows what they're doing, they asked all the right questions. So we think that it's really only gonna take like maybe less than a week to construct this. And we wanna do it as soon as possible, so Apex is thinking probably early March. Weather depending.
Yeah. Could be summer, it could be full on winter, you don't know. Any other questions or discussion that would? Someone wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to award the roundabout landscape project to Apex Contractors Incorporated and authorize the township manager to execute necessary contracts for the work.
Is there support?
I'll support.
We have a motion and support, is there further discussion?
Is this a roll call or?
No,
This is the voice.
I just wanna say I'm not a fan from the get-go, so I'm continuing my stance on this, so.
Open shot.
Yeah.
We're not, it's okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign? Okay.
Do it, aye, okay.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Okay. Oh, we're to reports already. Treasurer's report. Treasurer Helmrich, please go right ahead.
All right, so as the first of this month, December 1st, our general fund bank balance was $601 million. It's down $300,000 from October, but I'll point out that no property tax revenue was collected until December 1st. So that gap will be filled quickly. And having said that, all our permits are still running 10%. General fund revenues total are 17% under at this point, but as I said, that'll catch up now. And even though even having said that about the winter billing coming in, the property tax administration fee that we collected for the summer is actually ahead of, it's more than we had budgeted. So another positive thing. General fund expenses are 9% under budget. With there was some very small departmental overage elections that right itself. Within this month. We haven't had an overage in a department for a long time. It's tiny. So as I said, tax year 2024, the consent agenda included 2 more summer disbursements that totaled $254,000, where the tax bills went out successfully by December 1st. A little change here, all bills were printed in-house this time around. Seems to have gone quite smoothly. No, I repeated that. Disbursements, that's been approved by us. On the investment front, there were some changes made last month. Our total value of December 1st is about like $9 million. It's increased $55,000 from November. We purchased a new CD with Nicollet Bank through FBS, one of our 2 financial advisors. That's a 5-year term. Current yield on that is 4%. With our other municipal advisor, DAD, we purchased a new bond with the Federal Home Loan Bank Board with a 10-year term and a minimum year with the 10 years. It's called a 5%. Those 2 actions I wanted to point out because it returned us back to, we had been in a very laddered investment approach from short and long. Some of that changed when things hit maturity. We're back there. We've been trying to be the last 6 years. We do have another CD that matures in January. Bank. Ready to address that later in January. I don't know if this is a little too in the weeds, but we've been trying for years to get input from our the auditors on how we book these investments relative to various funds. We sort of inherited a way where only 3 of our funds, roads, this area in general, were involved. Can now use our other fund. It's more of an accounting thing, but we wanted to get that. Almost there. Like I said, that's very detailed, but it's a good positive thing to share. Speaking of the auditors visit went very smoothly this year. And I said they're sharing adjustments with us before issuing the final report. I think the adjustments actually came in this week. Yeah. Send that to all of us, so I expect it will also continue to be a positive report. All right, I'll quickly do planning commission. The planning commission, we actually had 2 meetings. We had the regular meeting on November 19th, then we had a special meeting on November 6th. So, public comment, Malacca spoke on keeping stairway construction in the moratorium. And then potential overlay district. We did vote on Meadow Woods, which is a housing, row house condominium project just south, just north of Worcester Highway. This was the final site condominium plan. Changes. And, this was approved 6-0. The high risk erosion area, Planner Wells introduced the idea, which we heard about, to craft new zoning language for areas along Lake Shore Drive for future consideration. Commission has discussed the merit of creating a district, but that was not an action item. Then there were commissioner comments at the end. Mr. Butler brought up this future discussion on short-term rentals, which we are addressing now. And he also showed an ordinance, which I know Daniel was seeing, I think others. Saugatuck Township actually has an ordinance. High water mitigation, but can't do the seawall or chicken. We don't. So that's interesting to hear about. And then at the special meeting on November 26th, that was held just to review the revised plan from North Shores for 8 new environmental, as they call it, north of 135th Avenue, right near the entrance to the whole North Shore area. This discussion about the concerns about access to that site. Sort of address. So the revised plan was approved 7-0. Assembly meeting of the planning commission. And that's my final report on the planning commission. For now. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, manager's report.
Alright, so I'm gonna try to just pick some stuff, yeah. So the board did approve in their consent agenda a proposal from Progressive AE to work on updates to housing related ordinances for the township. That's probably gonna be a subcommittee under planning, I imagine, and then all of those, any kind of proposed zoning text amendments would go to planning commission. But we'll plan to get that in motion soon. We are finishing up our first public access and land conservation report. So 50% of that was funded from the coastal management program. Parks worked on this. But essentially it was to identify types of property that the township would be interested in acquiring. And building out some GIS maps to help us visualize that process. So that's all included in the report. And then Cemetery Sexton and I have engaged Virus's design group to discuss the construction of a possible columbaria at Riverside Cemetery. So over the last few years, cremations have been the number 1 product in demand. It's no longer burials, and we do not have any cremation plots in the ground that are available at Riverside presently. So this would allow us to offer the public a cremation product option. It would be above ground. It's an above ground niche system. Virtus is going to be doing a survey of the area that we're interested in installing the system, columbaria, and some ground penetrating radar to make sure that we're not disturbing anything. So that's gonna happen first, and then we'll have a better understanding of potential area for installing a columbaria. But we have identified a manufacturer out of Minnesota that does really nice custom work, so we're looking into that. So that might be coming to you at some point. And then,
Question on that, before
Yeah.
we move on, how many cremains could the columbaria, am I saying it right? How many could it accommodate,
as many as you want.
really?
Yeah, so they're custom built, so it can be as high as you want, as low as you want, as long as you want.
But do we have any idea how?
We told them as an initial, like as an initial point, 150 to 300. What they've done in other communities, they're working, I forgot the name of it, there's a community up in the Traverse City area that's a client of theirs. And what they did there was they created a master plan. And that they're phasing them in, so you could essentially have a larger area and more niches that you want to install, but you install them like over time. So that's always an option, but to an initial inquiry, we said 150 to 300. So
And this initial plan for that is just at the Riverside property here.
just at the Riverside right now.
Theoretically, it could be.
Oh, yeah, no, it could
Douglas
definitely be in
too, 'cause
Douglas.
It's a lot of land.
And we do have a columbaria that's depicted in our master plan for the Douglas Cemetery.
Do you put the ashes in, or do you put them in a box in this? or-
They go into a box and it's like a vault.
Okay,
and there's-
so everybody gets one,
Yeah.
or you, okay, your name or whatever.
So they have different styles, not to get too much in the weeds, but you can have one box that fits 2 people, you can have a family box.
Okay.
So it's something, yeah, they're very neat, yeah. And you know, I think you might be familiar with like kind of like the granite with
Like a mausoleum.
like a mausoleum
Yeah.
outside.
Uh,
But they can really do it in any material you'd like and finish, so we're looking into that as an option because we're running out of land. And people still wanna be buried in Riverside, and it's a great use of the land where you can fit a lot more remains in a much smaller area. And I think it's a nice way to visit your loved
You could
ones.
still put them in your family plot if you have one buried, correct?
Correct, oh yeah, correct, we just don't have any new ones to sell for
Right.
cremations, that's the issue. We do in Douglas, but not in Riverside, and people are particular about where they wanna go. So there's that, and then we did, for the building renovation, we did get in a grant application it's actually just an initial interest form to Lakeshore Advantage, for a $250,000 grant to fund, part of the construction of a pedestrian plaza in the front of the township. So what Lakeshore Advantage is doing is they're partnering with other non-for-profits, in a multi-county area, I think it's Kent County, Ottawa and Allegan, and applying all together for grant money through the state's rehabilitation and placemaking grant program. We could have applied independently and just gone for it, but it's a very competitive pool of money. And so if we can apply to Lakeshore Advantage and they identify us as one of the projects they would like to represent in their sub-grant application, we're much more competitive and likely to get that funding, so that's what we did. So that interest form is in, and so we'll wait to hear back from them, and if they don't choose us, that's okay. But if they do, then we're competitive for about $250,000.
Thank you. Open order for. Others, do you have anything you'd like to?
I just wanted to thank you for your work on the planning commission, John, and your detailed reports have always been interesting and yeah, I'm sure Cindy will do an excellent job, but thank you for all you put into it.
No, I appreciate that. No, and to the city clerk, first, congratulations, and, we both served on the steering committee. We were zoning review. And I was chair of one of the 3 subcommittees, so, excited to have
I
Cindy.
do love this stuff, so you'll do great.
But thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
just thank you for your confidence in me to be the liaison with the planning commission. It's kind of been part of my whole entire life. And I do really look forward to serving as the liaison to the planning commission. Thank you very much.
Do you have anything else?
Congratulate the four of us that were reelected. And congratulate and say how excited I am to see Cindy Osmond back on the board. She's been on for a while and took a detour and now she's back with us.
Never left the township.
There were,
Yes.
as I say, there were some bright spots in the election, but I won't go into it.
And Stacy already stole what I was gonna say, so, again.
Oh.
Well done.
Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Beautiful.
Particular, right?
Okay,
You have any comments?
I don't, I said the most in this meeting, I feel
Well,
like everybody was.
That's your right.
Well, I said a lot about Cindy and Becky and you and Brenda.
You're talking
I
about me.
wanna
You wanna say
I wanna hear about the wildlife,
Oh,
committee.
it's going well. Yeah, well, we had our meeting Wednesday and there was that storm and there was this woman who said, are we gonna have a culling of the deer? And this huge thunderclap happened.
Oh, right.
I mean, you couldn't have timed it better, but it's a very interesting committee and people are very, have a lot of opinions, and so we're taking this very seriously about what to do with this.
Was there much public attendance?
Yes, there has been, 4, 5, 6 people, but they're very vocal and talk and it's some want all the deer and some don't want any, so it's a hot button issue and we're
confident that you can find some middle ground.
right. It's good, it's a good committee now.
Well, thanks for your work on it.
And I have a report in here and I'll do a monthly report. Because it's a board, right? So might as well have a report. Okay.
Okay. Public comment, are there members in the audience that would like to speak at this time?
I would just like to say I thank you very, very much. I appreciate everything that you guys do. I've never seen the township accomplish as much as you guys have. It's just awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
It's from our side, thanking you because you have a shitty job.
And thank you for that video. It was excellent, I have to say, so.
It wasn't professional, but.
Oh, I know, it's great.
Put together,
I can't quit thinking about it, I'll tell you.
that was put together in just like less than a day.
Wow, I'm easily impressed. No, it's very good, thank you.
It had that realism.
Yes, it did.
We don't have any participants online.
If anyone on Zoom wishes to speak, please raise your hand.
Is that like orange box and the green box?
Yeah, those are people.
Those are people, they're just not.
Right, I guess I don't wanna talk.
Right. I'm gonna close the public comments portion now and adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:21.